And welcome to this edition of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Alex Savage is back again. So, as you see, if you guys are watching on YouTube, I have redesigned kind of my template of what I'm doing my podcast on. As I said, if you're watching on YouTube, I have the logo at the top. I have what we can be found on at the bottom. Instagram, Spotify, Podbean, podcast platforms, YouTube, and social media platforms as well. I don't intend on making a Facebook, but if I have to, I will. Also, we got, the list of things we're going to go through. Today's specials. Giants are apparently going to sign Alex Tanney if he passes all the protocols. They're going to bring him to Seattle to have him on the practice squad or maybe even elevate him. But I'm pretty sure they might do that for Clayton Thorson anyway. So just as assurance, because of all the Broncos situation, nobody wants to be short on quarterbacks, and the Ravens situation as well. The Giants cut Chris Williamson, their 7th round pick. We'll talk a little bit about that, not too much. Stock up, stock down. Who played well against the Bengals? Who didn't? Who needs to come up this week? Who needs to stay where they're at? Injury report. Which key players are out for the Giants and the Seahawks this week? The stat station. Which teams have better stats in this category, that category, and more? Keys to win. What are the keys to win with the Giants, and how can they win with Colt McCoy at quarterback, and how can they win on defense as well? And players to watch is also very important. So, this is the toughest opponent that the Giants have this season. This really is. I was going to say, Baltimore, but over the last couple of weeks, they haven't been playing well. I'm pretty sure they lost to Tennessee in overtime. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Tuesday. That was what was that game? Actually, it wasn't Tuesday. It was Wednesday because it was a 3:40 game, but that game was really ugly in my opinion. It really was. But yeah, the Seahawks are the hardest opponent right now. I believe they are the 1 and the 2 seed in the NFC. They lead their division. We lead our division. So it's going to be interesting. We got to talk about a lot of things today. So quickly get it off the chest. Giants intend to sign Alex Tanney to a contract, probably like a minimum worth, going on the practice squad. Everybody is all touchy-feely about the situation now with quarterbacks because, the Broncos had to go with their wide receiver, Kendall Hinton, from the practice squad, and he was quarterback at Wake Forest, so they had to get him on the roster. Saturday night he was told, hey, you're playing quarterback. So very irresponsible by the Broncos. I think it was something about not wearing masks or not quarantining or something like that. But the Ravens should have had that same situation in my opinion, because the NFL, let's be honest, they put that game to Wednesday and they started postponing that game because it's market. The Ravens are a better team than the Broncos. And the NFL wants to make money. And, look at the marquee matchups. The Ravens, if they had everybody, or at least had some, they would have made it, very, very more competitive than, let's just say, if they didn't. And obviously, they were still somewhat competitive, but the play calling was just meh. I mean, I know you don't have Lamar or Mark Ingram or J.K. Dobbins, but, I don't know. I just didn't see a lot. Steelers didn't play that well either. I don't think that they're going to be a Super Bowl team, but I could be wrong. I think the Chiefs can beat them. But going to the Denver side, they faced New Orleans, and Taysom Hill was the quarterback, and obviously the Broncos were home. But same thing applies. Again, they had a quarterback who was a wide receiver for the longest time and hadn't played quarterback since Wake Forest in 2017. But that's not my point right now. Good move by the Giants, especially with this Daniel Jones injury. Clayton Thorson is likely to back up Colt McCoy in Seattle. But, to get Alex Tanney maybe some reps or at least, have him go through a walkthrough, seems fine by me. Tanney is familiar with this team. He played with this team for 2 years. He was a backup quarterback. Then he was the third-string quarterback. Got cut in the offseason. Well, not really offseason, but the transition to the regular season. And he knows the team. He knows some of the players. He's thrown to them. It's not all a blur to him. So the other player they were considering signing was Joe Webb. He would have been I would say accessible in a quarterback situation, and also in another situation with wildcat formations because he was a mobile quarterback back in his college days. So that is obviously another reason they would probably bring him on, because you need some flexibility in that offense, and we don't know what we're gonna get as far as Colt McCoy and the whole offense goes, because Jason Garrett's his play calling hasn't been the greatest this season. However, I'm willing to give him another chance through these next 5 games. So, Also, the Giants released Chris Williamson from the practice squad to make room for when Tanny signs that is likely tomorrow. I'm not surprised, honestly. I thought with Joe Judge and his attitude, they would have kept him, evaluate what you got in draft picks and stuff. But a lot of teams intend or do release 7th-round draft picks because they're like, you know what, this guy's a scrap. Goodbye. A lot of teams have done that. We've done that multiple times. So, again, there's no surprise here. Good luck to Chris Williamson. He competed in training camp. Obviously didn't make the roster as a 7th-round pick, so he decided, the Giants decided he's not worth anything anymore. Good luck to him, though. So stock up, stock down. Let's get to it. Evan Ingram, other than the fumble, 6 receptions, I believe like 132 yards. Very good game. Highest receiving game he's had in a long time. So, if he removes that fumble, maybe he's, better. Maybe Giant fans start forgiving him more. But again, stock up. But again, just do not fumble. I mean, yeah, Von Bell did a nice job of knocking it out. But again, fumble's a fumble. Sterling Shepard, he's always in the mix. I think he had like 7 receptions for like 84 yards or something like that. He's always going to be in the mix as that receiver that gets 50, 60 yards a game. I like Shep. Unfortunately, he gets injured a lot, so that's my grievance with him. Logan Ryan, he's fantastic. He should make the Pro Bowl. A lot of Giants fans want him back. I know my friend Cop Pizzle doesn't because he thinks, he's up there in age and the Giants don't need to sign him long term, but I think he should make the Pro Bowl. I would like him to come back, but also at the same time, I think we need to make our youth better and give them more playing time, because if you're going to keep playing Logan Ryan at free safety next year, where's Xavier McKinney going to come in? He's a 2nd-round pick. But he's had a lot of forced fumbles this season, has an interception. He had the forced fumble on Drew Sample, the tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals, so, he's done pretty well for this team so far. Jabal Sheard, he had that sack, forced fumble. Leonard Williams picked it up. Giants won the game. Leonard Williams had fumble recovery and also the sack earlier in the game on the stunt. And he basically, mismatched. I don't know who the other rusher was, but Jonah Williams pretty much couldn't handle Williams. Williams on Williams, no less. But he sacked Brandon Allen. He's done a great job this season. Isaac Yiadom, other than the touchdown in the end zone, which shouldn't have happened, he's done really well in the last 2 games. I think he stays around for next year. I'm trying to get sympathy for him, and I'm growing to that point. But let's see if he, proves it next game, because we're going to need corners for the next game. You got DK Metcalf, you got Tyler Lockett. None of those guys have injuries. And we're going to talk about which Seahawks players have injuries that could affect this game and what their game plan is. Let's see. Darnay Holmes. That pass interference call was absolute bullshit, but he's been improving last 2 weeks. He's gotten real physical with the ball. I mean, 2 pass interference penalties. You could say, 2 pass interference penalties in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, one was deserving, one wasn't. Let's look at the film here, guys. Let's not just look at stats. He got 2 pass interference penalties in the last 2 weeks. He's bad. No. Andrew Thomas, Shane Lemieux. Didn't allow a pressure. Lemieux, good in the run game. Obviously, PFF likes to screw him in their grades for the people that listen to him. I don't. Darius Slayton for stock down. Now, the reason I'm saying this, he's had 2 targets. Daniel Jones, maybe better communication, better coordination with that long throw that could have set us up for something, and you would have to risk something for something. What do I mean by that? You don't lay out on that throw, you're not getting it. Slayton, maybe it counts as a drop. Slayton lays out for it, makes the catch, doesn't get the touchdown. So it's you take away this or you take away that. I don't know in that situation. Cameron Fleming, again, every time, he gets out of his stance, he proceeds to hold somebody, even if he's not being, rushed very, aggressively. It's just so complicating with him, and I hope that, Parrott gets more reps this week at right tackle. I don't think that will happen because he's coming off COVID, and he could have some fatigue. This injury report is brought to you by AllToDoWithGaming.com. Save up to 30% on your entire order with the promo code BigBlue30. So Daniel Jones, hamstring injury, he's likely doubtful. David Mayo with knee injury, he's likely questionable. The rest of the guys seem good to go. Nate Ebner, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. And here is where we get to the Seahawks players. Here are doubtful people, or doubtful players, I should say. Cornerback Trey Flowers, He is, I believe, their number 1 or number 2 corner. Nonetheless, he plays a significant role in that defense. They haven't been good all year, and minusing a corner is not going to do much. So he has a hamstring injury. He's likely doubtful. Travis Homer, who's on my fantasy team, wrist, thumb, and knee. That's like a lot of injuries there. He's doubtful. Running back. Tackle Brandon Shell, former Jet. He has an ankle injury. He's doubtful. Look at the questionables. And I'm going to save the best for last in like this because there is a reason. Okay. Running back Carlos Hyde has a toe injury. Kyle Fuller, the offensive lineman, he has an ankle injury. Damian Lewis, the rookie guard from LSU, he has a groin injury. Carlos Dunlap, a foot injury. We're going to talk about the significant role he plays later on because there's an impressive stat out there that many look at, including myself. He's going to really have some impact if he plays. If he doesn't, then it's going to be the same old Seahawks defense, in my opinion, if the Giants can get something going. All right, so let's go to the stat station. As I said before, I'm like doing a new thing about today's specials. I'm going to have nicknames for new segments, so I'm going to get ready and, go into this right away. New stuff, new creativity. So let's go to the stat station for the Giants. They rank 29th, and this is offense, by the way, 29th in total yards per game, 28th in passing yards per game. They've improved tremendously with this rushing yards per game. They used to be 32nd in the beginning of the year. Moved up to 16th because of Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris and all the running backs. 30th in points per game. Now let's take a look at that defense. It's pretty good. They're 10th in total yards per game, 19th in passing yards per game, 5th in rushing yards per game, and 10th in points per game. Pretty good. Now, this is like a Dallas matchup in my opinion. I'm going to explain at the end. Offense. For the Seattle Seahawks, they're 5th in total yards per game. They are 4th in passing yards per game. They are 13th in rushing yards per game. And they are 3rd in points per game. Now, let's take a look at that horrible defense. 32nd in total yards per game. 32nd in passing yards per game. 3rd in rushing yards per game. And I'll explain and make a connection here. And then you look at the points per game, they're 26th. And what do I mean by saying this is a Dallas matchup? Because going into week 5, we had one of the worst offenses in the league. We had not scored a touchdown in over 2 weeks, but we had one of the best defenses that kept us in games. Rams game, Bears game, Steelers game to some extent, the first half of the 49ers game, and Dallas, week 5, had one of the best passing offenses in the league. Running, it was like meh, but passing, they had at least 400 yards per game in the passing game, or at least like 350, 360, 370. So it's an even matchup on the offense-defense. Seattle, they have a good offense. We have a good defense. Going back to week 5, Dallas had a good offense. We had a good defense. We still do. Now you take a look. Both at the time. Colt McCoy, Daniel Jones, doesn't matter. The offense is bad for us. Their defense is bad. Now Dallas, they didn't have one specific category where they stood out. The passing game was not good, and they were last, or next to last, with their Texas counterparts, the Houston Texans, in rushing yards per game. Seattle is 3rd in rushing yards per game on defense, and we are 5th. So, my opinion, Jason Garrett, if you are to be smart about this, you are to attack that secondary in some way, shape, or form. Because if you go to the running game, you're done. And I'm not saying you're done if you go to the running game at all, but if you heavily rely on the running game, you are not doing yourself or your team any justice. I'm tired of the conservative play calling, and I understand you have a backup quarterback who hasn't started since like 2016, 2017, 2018, something around that span. And he hasn't won a start since 2014 against Dallas. So my thing is, look at where you're at, and don't just say, okay, we're going to rely on the running game. No, you have to balance it out with what you have. Because if you say, stick to the running game, this is not the 32nd ranked run defense. This is the 3rd ranked run defense. We're the 5th. What if Russell Wilson was out and they put in their backup quarterback? I don't even know who it is. I think it's like Geno Smith or maybe somebody else. What if they put in their backup quarterback and decided to run the football all the time? I mean, let's see where they are on offense. They're 13th in rushing yards per game. We're 5th in rushing yards per game allowed. So that's not smart there. They would have to get something in the passing game going. We may not have those weapons they do, but we have weapons. When they can be utilized, how they can be utilized, that stuff. So that has to be, where this offense is. You can't over-rely on the run game because they're third in run defense. And you can't forget the pass game because we have weapons. And Colt McCoy, we need to use him correctly. So using him at all. Okay. Keys to win. And I'm going to talk about that right now. Shout outs to Chris the Entertainer because he had these tweets and I decided, you know what, let me take some of his stats, so I'll credit him. I was actually supposed to go on his channel on Saturday tomorrow, but I have a small thing to do and unfortunately I will not be home. But he was going to have me. Again, thanks for the offer, Chris, if you're listening. But I was supposed to be at his round table. We're going to talk Giants and all that stuff. But next time he goes live or something, I'm going to try to be on. So, I'm going to go with 3-1. I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go 1. So let's go to 3-1 here, guys. Number 3, get this offense going and dominate time of possession. Now, I have a stat for this. The Giants are 3-2 when leading time of possession, but 1-5 when losing time of possession. That one win, I believe, is against Washington. The first time. That's when a lot of Giant fans were like, I don't feel good about this win. I mean, I felt good because, it was a win. What are you going to say? Oh, it's a competitive loss, but you know what? That's not a good win. No, I'm not going to say that because I'm, very, very thankful that we have 4 wins this season. I'm very thankful for that one. So, that's there. Get the offense going, as I just said before. You can't over-rely on the run game because, going back to 2014, I looked at 2 certain games. It was against Tennessee and it was against another team. I think it was against Dallas, actually, when Colt McCoy, I think, was with the Redskins at the time. Now, Colt McCoy, his first game that he played, I believe, was Week 7, and he played against the Titans. He had like a 91% completion percentage. And I'm like, but he's not that type of quarterback. That's because they probably, in my opinion, now I didn't look at the box score. The offensive coordinator at the time, I don't know who it is, probably relied more on the run game. I think it was Sean McVay, or if it wasn't, it was somebody else. But they probably relied more on the run game because they had 15 total passes that game. 14 were completed. Go to the next game. He passed a little more. I think he had like 30 to 35 pass attempts, and he was completing like 80-something% of them. So, in my opinion, as I said before, you need to have the run game in there, but you can't just over and cover it with a blanket. No. You can just say, okay, we'll pass Colt McCoy for about 15 times. We'll have the running game go for like 30 times. No, because, again, Seattle is third in run defense. And what are we just not going to take advantage of their terrible secondary? And I get, Jamal Adams is coming back, but he hasn't done great this season in coverage. He's been not that good. And I'll read the stats later. And Pete Carroll, he knows how to coach. So this is a game where he's going to try to figure things out because he knows we have weaknesses. He's a smart guy. Number 2, cover wide receivers well. And I'm going to come up with a stat for this. Well, it's not coming up with a stat. It's using a stat. Number 2, cover wide receivers well. In 2 of 3 Seattle losses this season, they're 8-3, Metcalf was held under 50 yards. And mind you, I will read the stats later. There were times where he got under 50 yards, and they won. And some of those times, Tyler Lockett was prioritized more, or whether it was Chris Carson. But just keep that in mind. If we have James Bradbury on him, and let's just say either Yidom's on Lockett or Ryan's on Lockett or somebody's on Lockett and they hide, meaning Patrick Graham, he hides in the number 2 corner, and the rush gets to the quarterback because they're last, or at least one of the last in categories regarding sacks given up because their offensive line, in my opinion, isn't the greatest when it comes to that. Now, running the football, they're good. But obviously, we're going to have to stop that in the passing attack. So that's just, points to make right there. But, again, still, that's where I'm coming from on that. Cover the 2 receivers well. David Moore can also be a threat if those 2. Because we have this tendency of, this has been going on for a couple of years now, whether, where we like cover the number one guy, we cover the number two weapon, but the 3 and 4 break out for good games. Like Cam Sims against the Giants the second time. Like, who's this nobody? So they would have to devise a game plan to just somewhat limit the passing game. And I'm going to get into that with this key. That key is forced turnovers. Credit Chris the Entertainer with this stat. In Seattle's 3 losses, they've turned over the ball 10 times. Now, that's combined in those 3 losses. That's 3.33 per game, obviously, if you can do the math. In Seattle's 8 wins, they've turned it over only 4 times, which is really good. 0.5 per game. What do the Giants have to do this game? They got to help them turn over the ball. Make mistakes. Cover the guys. Do something on defense. Hide the number 2 corner. Get to the passer. Call blitzes. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm this defensive strategist. Oh, you got to do this, this, and this. I'm not no Bobby Skinner. Bobby does a good job at the all-22 defense streams. Shout-outs to him. But the Giants, I believe, are 4th in takeaways this season. And going back to last year when we had a negative turnover differential, this is a significant improvement. Now, mind you, we have talent. Leonard Williams has become something. You have Kyler Fackrell, even though he's on IR. Unfortunately, I don't know if he's coming back this season. You also have Logan Ryan. You have Blake Martinez. Jabril Peppers, he's been doing well. So you have pieces on the defense. And a lot of the forced fumbles have been coming from Logan Ryan. I think he has like 3 on the season. Utilize the defensive pieces you have and go after the football. Whether it's in Russell Wilson's hands, whether it's in receivers' hands. Go after the football and make a play. Because according to this stat, they've turned it over 10 times in those 3 losses. And we've done a pretty damn good job of forcing turnovers. Bradbury, Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers. Those guys have interceptions. Blake Martinez as well. Doesn't seem all that hard, but it can be. Go after the football and just play. And the offense, in this game especially, and I'm not expecting them to throw 300 yards per game. No, because this is Colt McCoy we're talking about. Seattle's going to adjust their game plan. But the offense, whether it's the running game or it's the passing game, has to take advantage if this defense gets the turnovers from Seattle. Or else we're going to go into a Chicago game where a Julian Love interception turns into a field goal and James Bradbury interception turns into a nothing burger. We can't be making mistakes with other mistakes. We can't be given gifts and not giving them back. That's my status. That's my motto. The holidays, they're about giving and getting too as well. You give the offensive shot, they give you something back. Points. And against this Seattle defense, I'm pretty sure that we can do that. Because unlike those fake sportscasters out there and those casual fans who listen to the bums on the radio, we have a chance against Seattle. I'm not picking the Giants to win, but we have a chance against Seattle. Because what the casuals will say is, oh, the Giants, they're going to get blown out by Seattle. The Seattle has a great offense. What did we do against the Rams week 4 when everybody was saying that about us? We were coming off a 49er loss where we got absolutely destroyed. They have 2 good wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Yeah, the 55-yard touchdown for Cooper Kupp. Anything else? Like any big explosive plays other than that? I don't really see any. The final score of that game was 17-9. The offense didn't take advantage. Daniel Jones threw a game-ending interception. So don't let the casuals tell you, oh, the Giants are going to get blown out by the Seahawks. They got Colt McCoy quarterback. And, maybe Jones, if he was in there, he wouldn't have won. Think for yourself. Look at the stats. Look at the background. Because this team has a chance to fucking win. Joe Judge, he should be coach of the year this year. I'm sorry. For all the people, saying, oh, this guy, I have to look at the coach of the year candidates when they come out. But for other people on the outside that don't listen to the beat media, that don't listen to the guys on the inside, Joe Judge has been extremely impressive as a fucking coach this year. And I hope he's the coach for the next couple of years if progress follows that. Players to watch. Let's go on to the final subject. And this deals a lot. And I'm going to talk about Carlos Dunlap here. So Russell Wilson this season, and I'll point out like the games where he's turned over the ball. Russell Wilson this season, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 70.7 completion percentage, 35 sacks, and 74.9 QBR. So let's take a look at the stats real quick. In the games where he's turned over the ball the most would be going back to the Arizona game, which was like he completed 66% of his passes. Tyler Lockett had a huge game. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Also take a look at the game against the Rams. They lost 23-16. 2 interceptions there. 2 interceptions against Buffalo. Other than that, he's thrown 1 interception in some of those games, but they haven't lost. If you force Russell Wilson into a turnover or multiple, you are likely to go back on offense, dominate time of possession, and take advantage. That's if they do. Because if they don't, and he throws 2-3 interceptions, maybe, and the offense doesn't convert, then you're making yourself look like a bunch of morons, for lack of better words. Because, again, stats show he's turned it over against Arizona 3 times. 2 times against Buffalo, 2 times against the Rams. That's their 3 losses right there. Other games, he's turned it over only once with an interception. And note, also had 2 fumbles against Buffalo. Also had 2 fumbles against Arizona the second time, even though they won that game. That's a total of 3 or 4 turnovers against the Buffalo Bills. I'm not saying we're Buffalo, but once again, turning over the ball is going to be very, very key for this defense to do. They need to force the turnovers and get the ball back and have the offense dominate time of possession and get the ball downfield. DK Metcalf, the biggest threat on offense besides Russell Wilson. 58 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 1,039. 17.9 per reception with 9 touchdowns. Absolutely fucking dominating. A lot of people say, this receiver's better. DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, any other receiver you could probably name. Metcalf is it. Metcalf has to be in that top 5 conversation at the end of the year. He really does. And again, I think I referenced it earlier when I was talking about covering the receivers well. 2 of the 3 losses, he's been held under 50 yards. The only game, or I should say the only loss they had when he was held above 50 yards, let's take a look, everybody. That was the Buffalo game. 7 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. So, let's just say, the Giants win. Maybe they go into that category where they hold him under 50 yards. Maybe give up a touchdown, like maybe a chunk play. Maybe they go into that category where people are like, okay, we need to cover him well and hold him under 50 yards and force turnovers in order to dominate the Seahawks. Maybe they start figuring him out that way. I don't know. But this guy is a hell of a receiver. He had 2 touchdowns against San Francisco the other week. 2 touchdowns against Minnesota. He's great. He really is. Tyler Lockett, 70 receptions, 771 yards, 11 yards per reception with 8 touchdowns. Among those 2 wide receivers, that is total 17 of his 31 touchdowns this season. That is just over half. Again, pretty fucking good. By the way, the Seahawks, they'd probably be my favorite team behind the Giants. Tyler Lockett, when he breaks out, he fucking breaks out. And I don't mean to curse a lot, but we have to put so much emphasis that this is the toughest matchup the Giants will face all season. Had 9 receptions, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns against Dallas. He had 3 touchdowns, 15 receptions, 200 yards against Arizona the first time they lost. He had 1 kick return touchdown, or if that's a touchdown or is that total, against New England and Dallas. So he finds other ways to get touchdowns if it's not through the passing game. Because he's their number 2. Metcalf is their number 1 priority. If he's not open, they'll throw to Lockett. That's why it's so important for Patrick Graham to either hide the number 2 corner or devise some sort of game plan to cover Lockett up. Because if you have Bradbury on the Metcalf and Bradbury does a nice job, Lockett's going to go out there and try to prove himself, and Wilson will find him if he is given the time. Because we know that Patrick Graham can scheme a pass rush, pressure, whatever. I think we're first in quarterback knockdown percentage. We're like 4th in pressure percentage or something like that. You know, I'm not that big in analytics, but come on, people. These are the proving points here. Jamal Adams. Let's take a look. I have his stats on another page. I'm going to get them right just now. So I was talking about those coverage stats. Let me get those before I go on to the others, because he's an edge rusher, basically. I mean, people call him Blitz Boy, which I think is really funny, but he did force a fumble twice on Daniel Jones last year when he was with the Jets, and one of them was a touchdown because Saquon couldn't pass protect. Not just that, though, but the whole offensive line was terrible. 6 sacks, only 1 rushing yard. So in coverage this season, he's allowed 20 completions on 26 targets, 76.9 completion percentage, 330 yards, 16.5 yards per completion, and 12.7 per target. He has not given up a touchdown in coverage, but an 118.3 passer rating. Now, reason people call him Blitz Boy: 6.5 sacks, 18 pressures, 5 quarterback knockdowns, 12 quarterback hits, which he will probably eclipse and go higher than how many quarterbacks he's hit in a single season, or at least how many hits he's gotten. Because right now he has 12, last year had 13 with the Jets. And as a, quote, edge rusher, blitz boy, whatever you want to call him, he's thriving. And again, I have not watched the film on him, but just looking at the stats right here, I know they don't tell the whole story, but he's pretty good. And if I'm not mistaken right now, with the pass rush that the Seattle Seahawks have, he probably is the leader. I'm serious. He probably is the leader in the pass rush, because before they got Carlos Dunlap, they didn't have anybody, and they still don't have anybody. And I'm going to get to Dunlap next, because he makes a significant impact on the Seahawks game plan. Benson Mayawa, Alton Robinson, some other guys. Note to note that you will have Damon Snacks Harrison in there. I don't know if he's going to be Giants good when he was with the Giants and the Jets run stopping, but it is key to note they are 3rd in that category, and I guess he's made an impact. With that, I don't know how many rushing yards they got, or allowed, I should say, against the Eagles last week, but let's keep that in mind. But going back to my point about Carlos Dunlap, over the last 4 games with Seattle, remember he was traded from the Bengals, 3.5 sacks. That is an impact player. And a lot of people thought, oh, Dunlap is finished, you know, this, and that. Well, obviously he wasn't thriving in a system with the Bengals. And let's explain something, everybody. Seattle's the worst pass defense in the NFL. The Bengals, they're one of the most terrible in pass defense. They're not as bad as the Seahawks. But Carlos Dunlap has found his way to the quarterback. 4.5 sacks. 3.5 sacks in 4 games with the Seahawks. I'm pretty sure he has 1 or 1.5 when he was with the Bengals. It's coaching. This defense may not be good, but Pete Carroll and their defensive coordinator are trying to work hard to figure out what the hell is going on. Maybe Lou Anarumo and Zach Taylor didn't know what the hell was going on, so they traded Carlos Dunlap. He wanted a trade, I'm pretty sure. Geno Atkins, he's probably gone next. I'm sorry. I mean, he's 32 years old. They probably don't have a reason for him, and he's been getting limited reps and whatever the situation is, but again, it's coaching. The defense may not look good, but he's an impact. The last 3 weeks, I don't have the stats right now, but they've improved with total yards per game. Let's take a look at the individual stats, shall we? So, I'll do totals at the end. Carlos Dunlap, when he was with Cincinnati in the first couple of games, 2 pass deflections, 18 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 4 quarterback hits, 7 quarterback pressures, and a sack. Gets traded to Seattle over the next 4 games. 0 pass deflections, 0 forced fumbles, 12 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 8 QB hits, 9 quarterback pressures, and 3.5 sacks. Totals: 2 pass deflections, 0 forced fumbles, 30 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 12 quarterback hits, 16 quarterback pressures, and 4.5 sacks. So the only thing he did better in with Cincinnati is pass deflections and tackles. That's it. This guy can still do it somewhat at his age. I'm pretty sure he's like 30. I'm not too sure. But this is an important player for Seattle to have on Sunday. If it isn't, I am expecting at huge rates, unless Jamal Adams has some game like he did against the Giants last year, I am expecting this offensive line to extremely improve. No sacks last week. People will make the case, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you play to win and you play for improvement in the NFL. It's not about opponents. Yeah, you can make the case, but again, people want to say, you guys only won to Washington, Philly, and Cincinnati. I'm pretty sure the thing in sports is about beating your opponent. Yeah, for all the casuals out there that think this team isn't improving. So, final expectations, just to end off the show before I make an announcement. If Carlos Dunlap plays, I don't know if he's going to line up against Cameron Fleming. I don't know if he's going to line up against Andrew Thomas. But you better prepare for that. You better. Because him and Jamal Adams are the best pass rushers on this team. Without them, they'd probably be one of the last in sacks. I'm pretty sure they're actually one of the top in sacks over the last couple of weeks. And accumulating them. Because you look at this defense right now, who do you have on the pass rush? Here's their defensive line right now. And the total amount of players. I don't know who else goes inactive every game. I'm not going to look at that. Jonathan Bullard came over from the Cardinals last year. Well, I mean, he didn't get traded, but he got signed by the Seahawks this year. Carlos Dunlap, as I mentioned. LJ Collier, Poona Ford, Rasheem Green, Damon Harrison, Benson Mayowa, Jerron Reed, and Alton Robinson. Other than Jerron Reed and Damon Harrison in the run game, who scares you outside of Jamal Adams and Carlos Dunlap? To be honest with you, they don't scare me. Anyone outside of Adams and Harrison and Dunlap, maybe Jerron Reed as well. But if Dunlap is not playing, in my opinion, I am expecting some things. Unless they scheme a pass rush and outthink any of the coaches on our staff, I'm expecting an improvement. The run defense, Damon Snacks Harrison will probably commit to it. He will probably impact the run defense. But as for passing offense, Colt McCoy should have decent pocket presence. I'm not going to say he needs perfect because he hasn't started in how many years. But those are my final thoughts on that. So, before we end the show right here, I would like to thank all the people that are supporting me, rocking with me. I know a lot of people are probably new because Chris the Entertainer has shouted me out in his videos when we've been talking on his live streams and whatever. But I have an announcement to make, and that is that I left All New York Sports a couple of days ago. It was a business decision. I'm not going to get into that because that's all in-house stuff. I'm not going to, really relate to that. I tweeted it on my Twitter. But I am a part of a new website incoming. It's called Uncut Sports News. Me and Jordan are starting it up. I'm going to advertise the shit out of it once it debuts next week. If you guys are interested. Now, this is not just, New York sports or LA sports. No. NFL, MLB, NBA, UFC, any American sports or maybe some even European you want to cover. Let me know. Because we want to make this thing bigger. We want to pay guys from the jump. We want to formulate a plan. We want to get successful. And I think I have the ideas to do it. Jordan has the ideas to it. We can have the staff to do it. So guys, if you're interested, please tell me. I'm very excited about this project. I might consider bringing this podcast to be a part of Uncut Sports News. Follow them or at least a page on Twitter and Instagram because we're just starting it out. If you guys want to apply, the Google form is in that bio. But to end it off, thank you guys for watching. I might go live on Sportscaster probably Sunday morning or that before the Jets game because I know they face the Raiders at 1 o'clock at MetLife, and I'm probably going to be watching that game, so I'll go over my picks and everything. I know I said I was going to incorporate picks, but we're already running on the, I think, 40-minute mark here, 40-something. If it's not, it's like late 30s. Thank you guys for supporting. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We can be found on every single platform you see below. If you guys are watching the YouTube version, if you're watching the podcast version or listening to it, I should say, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Our podcasts are available on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Thank you guys so much for the support, the engagement, everything else. Don't listen to media clowns. Don't listen to Michael Silver. Don't listen to any of those bullshits. The Giants can win this division. And if the Giants lose this week, but Dallas loses to Baltimore, Philly loses to Green Bay, and Washington loses to Pittsburgh, well, you're damn right, we're still in first place. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys on Sunday. If not, we'll see you for possibly losing Tuesday or victory Tuesday. Who knows? Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.